Hey guys, it's Jacob with High Point Land Company. Today we wanted to talk about how to rent farmland and farmland rents in general. Folks call our office all the time at the end of the farmland year, or when a tenant may pass away or go out of business, or when the relationship isn't working out very well on the topic of renting farmland. So it's a hot topic because the majority of farms are rented to tenants that are owned by landlords. I don't know what the statistics are today in the Midwest, but there is a substantial amount of land that is owned by folks as an investment or owned by a family that has retired or inherited farmland, and they're renting it out to someone else that is taking care of the farming operations. So you have a couple ways that you can rent farmland, and there's some great farm managers in the Midwest that are very knowledgeable on this topic, and the fees that you would pay a farm manager are really they're really reasonable on the topic of property management. When you look at commercial or residential management, there's a lot more that goes into those kind of management responsibilities. But on the agricultural side or on the farm side, it can be a lot easier. So don't skip that part. If you can find a great farm manager for a fair price, that might give you a resource that it will pay for itself time and time again. So that'd be thing one, is to talk to a farm manager. If you don't want to go that way, you want to do it yourself, you have a tenant, you have a family member, you want to figure out what to charge them for rent, there's a couple ways you can do it. At the county, at the USDA FSA office, there's a county average. Remember that when you're looking at county average, there's a lot of those reports that may not be 100% accurate for your farm. I can tell you story after story about a farm that is rented to an area for double or triple the farm average in the county. So looking that up on the internet gives you a good baseline, but do not use that as gospel for what your farm is rented for or able to be rented for. You really want to look at how efficient the operator is, what they're doing with the crop, what are they growing out there? Is it an irrigated farm, a dry land farm, a farm that gets great rain? Is it got a pattern tile system in it? Is it in a floodplain? What kind of crops are they growing out there, and how efficient and how good of a farm is it? What's the soil quality? Are they growing 100 bushel corn or 300 bushel corn? So when you look at the crops that they're growing out there, and you look at how efficient and big the operator is, and you look at the county averages, you're starting to get a baseline there. So you'll look at those farms and or look at that property and say, okay, here's where the range is, where we are, where we should be at. If you talk to a land real estate agent in the area, they can maybe also give you some free information on the topic of what to rent your farm for. The best tenants on farmland, in my opinion, are long-term tenants. Now, that by long-term, I mean a 3 to 5 year contract with an accelerator or a moving target. I think the best thing for a farm land owner, landlord, is to have a great relationship with the tenant, but don't let it get stale. Don't get it taken advantage of. And from the tenant side, don't get taken advantage of there either. There's a lot of farms that are rented where the operators are not profitable, and they just want to run the ground and they're not profitable. That's not a great business decision, obviously. On the landlord side, a great tenant relationship where they're getting taken advantage of on their side isn't sustainable or a good idea ever either. So you want the farm to be rented for the most efficient price, as well as have the tenant making money on the farm. That's what they're there to do. So, and you want it to be taken care of. You don't want the fertility to go down on the farm. You don't want the operator not to have enough money to clean up trees or tile lines or driveways, or violate any FSA or USDA conservation plan. You want this to be a great relationship and a long-term relationship. That's what's worked out for folks on farms for a very long time, and that seems to be the relationship that works out for the best. So long-term tenants, but on a short-term commitment. 3 to 5 years with an accelerator, with a moving target. So when you look at a farm and what it should rent for, to get to the answer of that question, ask some professionals, ask the county and the USDA, and look at the farm and say, okay, am I growing? You can do some simple math. Are we growing 300 bushel corn and we're renting the farm for $100 an acre? And I can look at the corn on the public market and that corn is selling for $6 a bushel. If you do some math on that, obviously there's inputs, obviously there's expenses, obviously the farmer has to make money. However, you'll notice that maybe that farm should rent not for $100 an acre or $200 an acre or $300 an acre. We have farms that rent for $50 an acre, and we have farms that rent for almost $700 an acre. There's a huge range. So to give you an answer on what your farm should rent for is very difficult without knowing your farm. In a simple phone call to a professional in the area, they'll give you a range just like that to make sure that you're not getting taken advantage of in your market.